Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives on how to approach a career in the field from different artists, producers, engineers, and other great minds who share their stories on not only what's made them succeed, but also what has shaped them into the people that they are today. I hope you gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you in your endeavors on your own journey towards success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 177 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today I welcomed an artist, TEDx speaker, and a vocal coach. Her name is Emma G. Emma is originally from New Zealand, but currently lives in the Washington D.C. area. She talked about her overall love for music and how that has led her to help a ton of people from all over the world. Like I said, through public speaking, through her one-on-one vocal coaching. She talked about, the life experiences that she's been through, very vulnerable moments that she was comfortable with sharing. I hope you guys take a lot from it. You'll hear it during the episode. But I really just admire Emma's, desire to push through these moments of her life and really just grow from them. And also be able to not only have a better life for herself, but help create a better life for others. And I think that's the ultimate selfless thing that can be done, is being able to do these things for others and use music as the tool to make it happen. I think Emma is just a rock star at everything she does. Ever since I got connected with her, I've just been super inspired by what she's been doing on social media and just everything she's got going on. I'm excited to see what's next for her. And hopefully we can get her on here again very soon. This is a great episode from a really great individual. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one as always. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Well, welcome everyone to episode 177 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today we have an incredible artist. Not only is she an artist, public speaker, vocal coach, does a lot of amazing things. We got connected a few weeks ago, but I can already tell she is an amazing individual. I'm happy to have her here today. Please welcome Emma G to the show. How are you, Emma?
Oh my goodness, I'm well, thank you, Anthony. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Like I said, thank you for getting in touch with me, and I'm happy to have you here today. And really, just to start off every episode, we have the guest give some background. How did you get into music initially? How long have you been at it? Just some basic info for those that might not know you and what you do.
Sure. It's always an interesting question. Introduce yourself. Tell the world who you are. And I always feel like it's such a simplistic question that is so difficult to answer for so many people because nobody's two-dimensional. So to that end, I am also not a two-dimensional human, and I am a singer-songwriter, correct. I'm also a youth empowerment through songwriting coach, author, 2 times TEDx speaker, and basically on a mission to save the world one song at a time, whether that's through the music that I make or the music that I help young people write for themselves. I've been singing my entire life. I'll be completely honest, and I think a big part of that is because I found very early on that music was not just my love language, but a tool that I could use to really step into and embrace the power of my voice and be vulnerable in a way that made me feel powerful. Obviously we're all familiar with Brené Brown's vulnerability is a powerful place to be, but idea. But I think it's still a very scary place for most people, especially young people. And I was born with a relatively rare neurological condition called hydrocephalus. So by the time I was 10, I'd had 10 brain surgeries. But also by the time I was 10, I'd also written close to 500 songs. So, music is the place that I find happiness, security, and authentic power, I think.
Yeah.
And that's my hope, to help young people find that for themselves.
And that's super awesome. And I did see that on your social media about, you having the brain surgeries and everything. I thought that was incredible. And just being able for you to overcome that and to get to where you are today, especially, is super huge. And, I commend you for doing that and giving back in the way that you have, because I think that's super vital. And it's I think a lot of people, even when we go through trials, it's you can kind of choose how you do it too. It's you're going to let those things completely demoralize you and ruin your entire life, or you can choose to, continue to push through and just to be able to do it for yourself, but to do it for others is such a great thing. So I just have to first of all say congrats on that. And that's super awesome. And using music that really is like a universal language for all of us, you know what I mean? And being able to, even if you're not an artist, you know, you're either a fan or you have an appreciation for music as well. So it's super awesome. And yeah, I was definitely excited when you reached out, and I just went through like your social media and everything, and I was like, she's incredible. So I'm definitely happy that you're here. And I did want to ask, you know, with that in mind, with, you know, what you had to overcome from a young age, you know, in mind as well, what do you think was one of the biggest challenges when you decided you were going to actually devote your life to music and really just helping people and giving back? Now that could also be more than one challenge, but what's something that comes to mind that was like a huge thing you had to get through to kind of get to where you are today?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think at every point in a person's life, we're presented with multiple opportunities to choose your own adventure. And I think what that means to me is that every struggle in particular has been a catalyst for change. And it's been up to me to decide what kind of change I want to lean into. So, I mean, there have been multiple times throughout my life that I have found I've had the opportunity to either choose to go through it or to grow through it, right? The biggest, I think, example I can name that, I don't know, like there have been multiple opportunities for that. We all go through, you know, tests, if you will. I guess the earliest memory that I have of experiencing and deciding for myself what kind of human I want to grow into as a result of, not in spite of, but as a result of the growing pains, would be, you know, and I don't know how TMI you want me to get here, but, you know, on my 15th birthday, I endured an encounter with my uncle that was incredibly traumatic. You know, up until that point in my life, I was already very confused. I've been struggling with depression since I was 12. And, you know, to have this event occur, you know, the day after my 15th birthday, was, and I mean, there's no words for it. Like, how do you describe that kind of trauma? It's, but unfortunately, it's something that happens to so many young women and so many young men. So I took it on myself to, you know, step into another sort of part of my psyche, if you will, because music taps into so many parts of our psyches that I first, you know, had to cognitively recognize that I was not alone in this experience, that there are multiple people that do experience and endure and overcome, but also that I had a unique opportunity, to channel that trauma in a way that would serve me and in a way that made discussing the issue a lot less scary, and a lot less uncomfortably. So I ended up writing a song called Barbed Wire, which, of course, if you know me and my music at all, you'll know that I released in April this year as part of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And it won a Telly Award. It came silver in this year's Telly Awards. And so that, in and of itself, I think, was a huge testament to how music has, like, not only been a lifeline of survival, but also can now proffer as a lifeline for other people who might feel alone or might be struggling with similar issues.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was maybe a little bit more intense than you wanted.
No,
But
no. I honestly, well, I gotta say this. I honestly appreciate you for being willing to share it. And I know, again, I've seen other clips of your interviews in the past as well, and I knew this going in. So I appreciate you for sharing it once again on this platform because I think it is super important, and specifically the way that you've been able to channel that into music and into, like you said, something more constructive and something that can help others too. That's
yeah,
super important. And I don't think we've ever had anyone share something like that on this show, but I think it needs to be said as well. And it's like, you're right, there are so many people that have had those similar experiences too. And maybe people that, they might be afraid to speak up or speak out against, whoever they had to deal with in that situation too. So it's like a lot of different things and a lot of emotions that go into that. I definitely want to encourage, anyone listening too, that if you have that experience or you've had that experience, don't be afraid to, seek help and seek the guidance that you need to get through it. It's obviously something that can affect you forever. Even if you get through it regardless and you're building a better life, it's always going to be there. You know what I mean? It's an unfortunate reality, but I think just being able to talk with people that, have had similar instances and just be able to get through it in a healthy way, that's super important. And again, I say thank you for what you've done through that experience, being able to help other people. And I appreciate you for sharing that 100%.
thank you,
So
thank you.
that's super great. I definitely want to touch on, what you do in vocal coaching and what you do with your TEDx speaking as well. And I kind of want to know, because I'm not familiar with really either one of those, because I don't do either one of those really. Other than this podcast, I don't really speak a ton. So I kind of want to know, what are the similarities between those two as far as like how you approach them, and maybe what is the differences? Because I know in vocal coaching, you're trying to get the best out of someone, you're trying to get their voice to sound as good as possible, really just unlock another side of themselves as an artist. But as a speaker, I feel like you're trying to inspire, you're trying to get people to see something in themselves that maybe they don't see, until they hear you speak on a similar thing and they're like, oh, I went through that as well. So like, so if
Yeah.
you understand the question, like, I guess it's just like, how do you take elements of what you do in both and kind of, approach them the same way or differently?
So, well, I mean, I think that's a very accurate question for the typical vocal instructor. I am not a typical American vocal instructor. I've been here for, coming up 8.5 years now. Sorry, not I'm coming up 9 years in the States, really. And, having grown up in New Zealand, where we have a strong reverence for our indigenous culture, the people, Maori people. My father was from Fiji, but all Pacifica people, generally speaking, have a very similar understanding and connection with source and with spirit. So for me, vocal coaching is kind of an offset of acknowledging and stepping into your power. So they're very similar, actually. As a keynote speaker, my whole thing is reminding people of their power, reminding people of the validity of their voices, reminding people that they're important and that they're valuable. And vocal coaching is kind of the physical manifestation of that same message. So many of my clients over the last coming up 18 years of teaching, which is wild. Just, on the, I can't believe that I've been teaching for that long. But so many of my clients really, it's not just about becoming a rock star. It's not just about singing on stage. For them, it's vocalization is an opportunity for them to work through, first identify and work through stress in their life. Because, your body's an instrument. As a vocalist, you need to make sure that you have, are looking after your instrument the best way you can. Therefore, stress does not serve you as a vocalist. So if you are, feeling in a funk, how can I, as your vocal coach, help you navigate and work through that? And that's where a lot of the life coaching aspect of vocalization comes in, which is wild, because it's most, I think, vocal teachers look at the symptoms, they don't look at the cause of vocal issues. So it's the same thing with when I'm speaking and when I'm running workshops or when I'm coaching one-on-one. I'm very focused on the spiritual, holistic aspect of my audience and of my clients, making sure that they feel seen, heard, and validated, yes, but also that they feel safe, that they feel, heard, that they, understand their bodies and their spirit and their emotional selves, and move on throughout life, whether it's after a conference or after a lesson, feeling empowered and, valuable.
Mm-hmm. Hey, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know how you can become a monthly supporter of the show. So if you click on the show description in your podcast platform, you'll see the word support this podcast toward the bottom, and you can follow that link to sign up. You have the options of donating $1, $5, or $10 a month, and that'll be used towards making the show a better experience for you as the listener. That means new and exciting guests, giveaways, and a lot more that we can continue to provide for you. So feel free to click that link and check it out, or visit anchor.fm/provenknowledge/support to contribute today. And for now, let's get back into the episode. I'm so glad I asked the question because I came up with it last week. I'm like, this might be a really good one. I formulated it. I'm like, I'm curious to know, but that's amazing, and I'm glad that you have that too, because it sounds like you're able to honestly inject like your real personality into it as well, and you're able to gain the trust. You know what I mean, from the people you're talking with and working with on a daily basis. So I think that's really the only way to do it, and I think I wanted to put that in there because, for the people listening as well, it's like no matter what you do, if you're an artist, producer, like whatever you're doing when you're working with someone else, like, you got to do that. You know what I mean? You got to show them like your real humanity and show them that you can be trusted and they can come to you with their needs and wants, and it's a safe place. You know what I mean? So I definitely love that, and I think just for you that's been super vital. It sounds like for you that's been one of the big things that's kept you going through, like you said, 18 years, you know what I mean? Because you got to really enjoy that and the different people you've been able to meet and affect. So, yeah.
And it's interesting because I think you're right. I think we get hung up on, I don't know, we get hung up, I think, on this whole idea of wanting to trust your vocal teacher. My big thing is like, yes, please trust me. I don't ever view myself as your vocal coach. I view myself as like your big sister, your friend, your little sister, whatever. And we're on this journey of self-discovery for your voice together. But more importantly, and this is like sincerely my prayer, is that my clients walk away from their sessions with me trusting their own voice. It's not about me and my voice. It's about them trusting their voice. That's really, really the important takeaway for me.
Yeah. Well, I love that, and it's super, super vital and super important. And I don't know if anyone out there is looking for vocal training, anything, hit up Emma.
Well, I'm not operatic, but we'll try.
Yeah, well, gotta give it a go for sure. But I definitely want to get into what you're doing as well as an artist, because I know you're still doing live performances here and there, putting out new music. So what have you been up to, the calendar year just so far in 2023? And do you have anything for the rest of the year as well planned? I'm sure it's a lot, but what can you share with us?
There's so much going on. So at the end of last year, I had this outrageous idea that I wanted to put together like a one-woman stage production called Soundtrack in Progress, that talked about sort of catalogued a number of songs that I've written throughout my teenage 20s and 30s years, and talking about, how music has been such a huge catalyst for mental, emotional, and social well-being. But whatever, the stars did not align, God had other plans for me, whatever, it didn't work out. Okay, cool. So I kind of rejigged my thinking a little bit and looked at the songs that I had included in my Soundtrack in Progress project. And what do you know, Anthony? Every single song that I'd written somehow aligned with a cause or awareness that is honored in this country. So, February, I released a single called Soon in conjunction with Valentine's Day. March was Women's History Month, so I released a song called The Show, which I wrote when I was 12, talking about the pressures that we often have as women to perform our lives as opposed to live our lives. In April, of course, was Barbed Wire for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so on and so forth. So that has been a pretty incredible journey through not just like walking the walk and about showing people this is actually what I've been doing as a teenager mind, up until now myself. So I'm not just completely bullying my way. Bullying? Is that? I'm trying to be politically correct here. I'm not lying my way through these kids. This is something that I practice myself. That has been a really fun experience. And then, of course, the Hard Rock Cafe here in D.C. picked up that mission of mine. And so I've been doing a residency with them for the last 6 or so months, which has been phenomenal. And I'm really grateful for their support. And, a couple of the songs I've been kind of like showing them off early to people at the Hard Rock Cafe. And then I'm bringing that up because next year we are looking at joining forces for a US tour in partnership with the Hard Rock. So it's all about music and mental health for me. It's all about finding organizations and businesses that are excited about that mission as well, and just helping young people recognize the importance of honoring that mental health.
Yeah. Well, that's super awesome. And again, congrats on all that, 100%. And I think I like how you had that initial idea and once it kind of shifted to something else, you didn't just completely scrap it. You know what I mean? Like you shifted it to something that was also more positive and that could help people as well. So I think that's another good lesson is just when you have these ideas, if you're so set on a plan, just because it falls through, it doesn't mean that the plan's just useless. You can shift it to something else and make something else happen out of it. So I definitely love that. And again, everything that you got coming up, I'm definitely excited for it. So I'm going to be, tapped in to see what you got going on for sure. Last few questions here, and these are ones I ask on every episode. These are more life-related stuff. And the first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
Okay. If I could go back 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was 2013. I had just gotten out of an incredibly toxic relationship and was about to go on tour with my then hard rock band called Static Era. That was a pretty cool time in my life, I'm not going to lie. What I would tell myself, however, was to have more grace with myself. I felt very stupid for finding myself in such a dangerous relationship. But in retrospect, I think it's really important for us all to recognize that at any point in time, we're only ever doing the best we can with what we have, and with the knowledge we have, and with the experience we have. And so being able to kind of give myself grace that, okay, that was an experience. Don't do that again. Now that you know, I think that was my, that's what my biggest takeaway from that year. But then, of course, to sort of reference back to our conversation earlier, I don't believe in going through life just for the sake of going through it. I believe that in every adverse experience, we have an opportunity to grow and become better and become more awesome and whatever. And so as a result of that really horrendous period of my life, I did some pretty cool things. I was the ambassador for Tough Mudder when it first came to New Zealand, which is an 18-kilometer obstacle race through mud and ice. And then I became 6th place in New Zealand's version of X Factor. Well, it was X Factor New Zealand. So I came 6th in that. My band's album hit number 11 on the top 20 charts. I won New Zealander of the Year Local Heroes Award. So like all of these wonderful things happened, I think, because of the lessons I had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just having grace.
Yeah, I definitely love that. And if we flip it then and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you see all of this going? Everything you got going on, and where do you see yourself just in the future?
Oh, goodness. Where do I see myself in the future? Where I would like to see myself in the future is touring the country, touring the world, speaking and singing for people, and just running workshops and, just giving back and helping people recognize and step into the power of their voice. I've always, since the beginning of 2020, one of my good friends, Jerry Williams, coined me the musical version of Oprah, and I thought that was hilarious. But that's kind of where I would love to see myself. Somebody who has my own TV talk show and talks to people and speaks at conventions and runs workshops and sings for audiences purely with the purpose of helping people understand how badass they are.
Mm. That'd be quite incredible, honestly. Own TV show, TV network.
Aim high.
Yeah,
Aim high.
You got to. And do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Words of wisdom. I think one of the things that is often, it keeps coming up in my psyche when it comes to life in general, is just remembering that you are loved, you are love, and everything you could possibly need lives within you. That's a really just important, valuable message that I learned in Barcelona a couple of years ago, and sometimes I think we forget.
Yeah, definitely always good to be reminded, for sure. And Emma, I want to thank you again so much for agreeing to do this, wanting to do this, and I had a great time. I hope you did as well, and we'll definitely have to reconnect soon, but I appreciate it.
I look forward to it, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 177. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds, and feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks everyone.